Whew. That was a weekend, gentlemen. That was a weekend. How's everyone doing there in podcast land and live stream land? I'm your host, Jorge Edwards. Welcome to Fourth and Frames. And we got a special recap from the Fantasy Football Expo 2021 edition here at Fourth and Frames. As you know, they are every week. We got Teddy Ricketson. How you doing, Teddy?
Survived. That's about all I can say right now is I have survived.
Yeah, Nate Markham, how are you, sir?
Likewise. I for about a day and a half didn't have really a voice, and that just goes to the magnitude. Number one, I don't shut up, and I might have to talk over. Two, I have to talk over Carrie talking, which good luck.
Yeah,
that is our brand manager you're speaking of.
Yes, how is our new brand manager doing?
I almost want to say, I would never call her the queen of the expo because that's offensive towards the other women that were there who were magnificent. But I absolutely love the fact that on so many different tweets that were going out and people talking and doing their thing, where one of the most memorable people that they met was a person who's not really directly involved with fantasy football other than through us. And I mean, she isn't Scott Fish. And so, yeah. She loves it. She loves
2 years in a row.
Absolutely.
I heard she got in before her husband did.
She did.
Yeah, rumor has it.
She didn't finish higher than her husband did, though.
All right, whatever. So, that's a
smarty pants.
Whatever.
Yeah. Whoa. Don't be mean.
Oh, yeah. Don't be sorry. The whole point of doing that's winning. I ain't here to make friends. I'm here to beat people.
Oh, my God. We will get to that exact quote you just made right there, because a valuable lesson came from somebody saying that over the weekend. But that's kind of what we're about here this week. You know, we learned a lot of things. We met a lot of people that, let's face it, 2020 forced a lot of us out into the broadcasting stream, into the fantasy football universe, and finally got to see each other.
Oh, damn it. I did.
And we were giving them away for free too. That's the thing.
We were literally just
tossing them out. Like, here you go. Here's a
they were all
t-shirt.
Dude, but they were all like 3X and everything else. And Jake is just he's too skinny. Too skinny for that. He's sag.
We're not the brand for you anyway, Jake. If you're too skinny,
yeah. I'll get judgment in that matter, but I will say that you are not wrong.
I will 100% have one.
I will cheers you to that, by the way, gentlemen.
So,
by the way,
but I do have one of these for you, Jake.
Cheers. You got a few of these left over. His feelings are hurt. I'm sorry, Jake. It's going to be okay though. We'll find a way to hook you up.
Come over. I'll give you one of the shirts. I don't care. I got one. I could give you mine. I don't need it.
So I think this episode is going to be good. We're kind of going off the cuff a little here. Let's just talk about what our experiences were going to Canton first and foremost. I'm going to save my embarrassing story for a little bit later. So let's start with you, Teddy. How was your drive out to Canton?
Yeah, so for those that don't know, I am located in Pittsburgh, which is apparently only about 2 hours outside of Canton, with about a 7-minute detour through West Virginia. So I'm of the mindset that they're not teaching geography well enough in schools down in Georgia and North Carolina, because that surprised me. I also didn't know that Ohio had corn. And so when I started driving through it, I had to double check the GPS. But when I told my dad that, he was like, oh, yeah, they're huge in corn. I don't know. So that was interesting, but easy 2-hour drive. I saw a hot air balloon. There's a lot happening. But no food, by the way, if you avoid the tolls between Pittsburgh and Canton on the back roads, no food. So just keep that in mind for your travels. But other than that, it was smooth sailing.
Yeah. So what about you, Teddy? Or what about you, Nate? I know you got out there a day earlier than the rest of us.
We did. There are Amish in that area, from what I understand. There's around here too, shockingly in Missouri. But yeah, so I have one lesson is that buy renter insurance for rental cars. Unfortunately,
that sounds so much more ominous than what actually happened.
I know. Whatever. So, I mean, but here we'll find out as soon as I get my credit card bill and they hit me for about $2,000 or whatever. But
you're right.
Smooth sailing. Carrie and I are cruising. We stopped in Cleveland. We're making our way to Canton. Get requests like for songs that we're like, man, you gotta listen to good music, and we got a couple of them in a row that we like. And then bam, I hear Rock Chip. Actually, before that, you guys know the movie, was it Final Destination 2?
Final Destination, yeah.
So you're behind that truck with the big wood.
logs, Yeah.
Mm-mm.
That's
I still don't like it.
we were behind it. And I was like, not today, Satan. Get me around, because it's Friday the 13th, too.
Not today, Satan.
We get around, cruise on through, and it was about that time when a rock chip hit the windshield and didn't even notice it, and the little line started to creep across the bottom. So luckily, I filed a claim with them. They had the claim number. I turned it in. They had the claim written down. They wrote it on the thing. So we'll see. So the next 2 to 3 days, maybe a week or two, will be hurry up and cancel that credit card. I'm just kidding, budget. I would never do that.
If we don't see Nate again, he might be in Mexico.
Exactly. I think there's budget in Mexico too, probably.
Probably.
They're everywhere.
Probably.
Oh, well. So yeah.
Nice.
Corn.
All right, Jorge.
What'd you do, Jorge?
How was your time getting to Canton, my friend?
So I'm outside of the DC area, so I roll into Dulles International Airport with Ken Sonnenberg, who one of the OGs here at Fantasy and Frames, and great job, by the way, Ken, for all the good stuff you did for us this weekend. And of course, we're meeting up with a friend of ours that we met back in 2019, Colby Conway from Fantasy Alarm. If you're not following him, give him a follow. He puts out great content.
Colby Jack and Cheese. Actually,
if you heard that shouted at the bar by our brand manager Carrie, that is who that is.
Yes, Colby Jack and Cheese. That's what he responds to. So we're all waiting at the gate to go on the flight, and I take a look in the corner, and there's a person sitting in the corner by himself, and I'm like, who is that? That looks familiar. And I'm like, and everybody's wearing their masks, so I had to double check and triple check, quadruple check. And I look over there, and it's Mike Clay from ESPN, and I'm like, how about that? So I asked Colby, hey, I know you're in the Kings Classic with him. Is that Mike Clay over there? He's like, yeah, I think that is. I'm like, okay, all right. This is an expo weekend. This is probably a good opportunity to meet people that you've looked up to for a long time in the fantasy football industry. I'm going to go introduce myself to Mike Clay. So I started to walk over, and I'm like, you know what? No, he's probably sitting there by himself. Let me not do anything that kind of potentially could rub him the wrong way. If the universe tells me it's my day to meet Mike Clay, the universe will tell me. So whatever, we get in line and we're boarding the plane, and it's a small little plane, and everyone's walking through the aisles trying to get to their seat, and then there's like a pause and people moving down the corridor. And as we paused, look to my right, sitting in his seat is Mike Clay, and I'm like, oh my god, the universe just provided an opportunity. So I'm like, hey, Mike Clay. And he's like, hey. And I'm like, the second.
The best part is that you said the universe drew me to this paralleled intersection of me walking down a single lane plane that he's already boarded on.
Right.
Like fate intervened and happened to guide my hand.
And I just love that you opened with the very normal, hey, first name, last name.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And in the second that I say that, the line starts moving again. I'm like, hey, Mike Clay, I was going to introduce myself, but it's kind of awkward to do this now because the line's moving, and I can't really talk to you right now because we're moving. He's like, yeah, that is pretty awkward. This is a pretty awkward moment for you to introduce yourself. I'm like, yes. And then I just put my head down in shame and just walked to my seat and flew to Canton. So yeah, that was my way to kick off the weekend. And of course we get there and it's not checkout time at the hotel. And Colby Conway, if you have an opportunity to go to some breweries with Colby Conway, I highly suggest it because he picks the good ones. And we went out there, had a great time, checked in, and that's when I finally met Nate and his wife in person, and Teddy. And then before you know it, the craziness just happened starting from day one. But it was a lot of fun. And so one thing I will say about the bar at the DoubleTree, hire more people.
Shout out Keith. He's retired right now, living in Boca Raton.
He probably put in his 2 weeks notice.
Yeah, exactly.
After the weekend, we tried to let them know that 150 people were going to show up.
Right.
They didn't believe it.
Right.
And then 150 people showed up in this hotel bar, and it took about 45 minutes to get a beer.
Unless you had been sitting at the bar since about 2:30 and kept pumping them full of 10s and 20s like our brand ambassador and I did, because every time he came around, I promise you, it was like Here's mine, and then everybody else. So we looked the part of famous, and then of course our inner circle. You guys more of a triangle, I guess, but you get it. We're getting fed drinks, and then you compound that with 150 people who have been pretty much holed up in their house, and some of which are a little uncomfortable meeting other people and talking and putting themselves out there because all you see is like an avatar or, hey, I've been on one podcast. Hell, sometimes you're on podcasts with people and they don't even recognize you when you walk past them. But yeah, neither here nor there. Doesn't really matter.
No disrespect taken. It happens.
That happened a few times. I double took a lot last weekend and going. We've kind of decided that going about a year and 4 months with not having much social interaction to 3 full days of it was a bold choice.
Exactly.
One thing that I will do to kind of set the stage for all of you listeners, since you do kind of watch the podcast, I am 5'11", just so you know. And I'm the shortest one in the Fantasy and Frames group, minus Ken Sonnenberg. That was there. Jorge is like 6'2". It's absurd.
You thought I was like short. You thought I was shorter than you.
I thought we were all just gonna be normal sized. I didn't know.
What is normal size?
Like 5'10", 5'11", like a good normal size.
Yeah, now some freak 6'2", you weird.
I wasn't expecting.
God, how'd you do it?
Like, and I met Jorge sitting down, and then he got up, and I was like, Jesus Christ, and I was just like, I wasn't expecting it. Like,
I'll tell you who's tall. And
everyone in the fantasy community is giant.
Maddie, big chest over Dynasty Rewind. Is that who you're gonna say?
Yeah. So Mike Bauer, he told me before the expo, he's like, by the way, Maddie, he's tall. I'm like, what do you mean he's tall? Maddie, big chest. If you're not following him on Twitter, does great graphics work. He did our graphics that were here a minute ago. I don't know where they went, but
we were pulling up comments and stuff.
Oh, right. So anyhow, I'm it's Sunday. I know I'm skipping ahead a little bit here. It's Sunday. I'm at the booth and I'm like talking to people, and there's a person to the left of me, there's a person to the right of me, and then all of a sudden somebody up the middle just goes, "Hey, Jorge," and I'm like, "Hey, and you should visit fantasyandframes.com. Oh my God, Maddie, you're tall." And I knew what to expect going into it, but good Lord, man. But yeah, everyone is, I shouldn't say everyone, but a lot of tall people there. Needless to say.
That's funny. That seemed to be the common theme, is that I think we all need to basically have some type of like a wall behind us. So like whenever you are doing the lineup that says you're 5'11", 6 foot, like you're getting ready to go to prison, we all have to have that behind us now. So everybody knows they're 6'2", 6'1", or 16 freaking feet tall. Like
that was probably the most common tweet I saw after night one was everyone's gigantic. So.
Exactly.
I'll tell you what though, one friendship that we made that I think Nate and I and Teddy can tell you that was really cool was Gary Davenport at Fantasy IDP Sharks, Fantasy Sharks, Bleacher Report. I mean, you name it, you name the site, he writes for it. He's been like the godfather of IDP. He, of course, you make a compliment towards Gary, he's like, I hate compliments. I'm like, well, you're about to get them, so you're about to hate this also.
Don't listen, Gary. I mean, don't turn it off. Keep listening.
Right? Yeah. No, keep watching. No,
mute it.
Yeah. Okay. I'm done, Gary. I'm just kidding. There's one more thing I have to say about Gary Davenport. So you had mentioned this earlier. Somebody was talking about like, oh, I want to be better than everybody. I want to beat you. I want to be the best analyst out there. And Gary and I had been talking about some defensive players, and I was just picking his brain, asking what his thoughts were for IDP purposes. And Gary stops mid-conversation, looks to the gentleman who is saying he wants to be better than everybody. And he says, don't try and take somebody's spot. Make your own. And I guess that's lesson number one to everybody who's out there in the fantasy football community who is trying to, quote unquote, make it, trying to build their brands up, trying to build their individual brand up, trying to, get those dream jobs, trying to do all that jazz. You don't get it by bringing people down. You do it by giving people a reason to want to see you, to enjoy your content, and to connect with you. That's how you do it. This whole like, we're gonna burn the other person down. That never works well. Karma finds a way to get back at you for that. So I definitely appreciate those words. Gary.
Well, and that's what is crazy is this whole weekend taught me one thing, and hopefully it taught a number of people that are kind of put themselves on pedestals just a little bit. And that's not, I can say it's none of the people that we interacted with. I never got that sensation. I honestly went in thinking like everything else, Twitter and every other social media platform can be a toxic environment. And it's all who, one up each other and I'm better and how'd that person get ahead? They don't deserve it. They might not say it, but a lot of people feel that way. And so I assumed that might be the overarching theme. And it was not. I was way wrong. It was a lot of building each other up. And I can tell you, just on the rare occasion, it didn't happen often. And I understand that. Still getting my feet wet per se, but to have a few people come up and actually say, wow, I can't believe I'm meeting at the same time, or wow, this is so great, I love all that, makes me want to just basically write 10 times more, put so much more out there and interact more and engage more and go right back, because it's it's not all about ego, but it's like, man, just at least just that's what everybody wants. They want one person to listen. They want one person to read. They want one person to say, yep, you helped me win. You'll get enough saying you're a dumbass. You cost me the championship. Thanks a lot. Cameron Jordan sucks, or insert whoever it may be.
All right. So let's jump in. Of course, I being I shouldn't say I'm the older one. Nate, you're the older than all of us, but you guys party. You're welcome. You're welcome. I know, right? Old Man River over here. No, but it's like 11:30, and I'm like,
"Oh, John,
hey, John, how's it going?
What's up, John? We're going to talk about you, John, because you are a pretty awesome person that everybody should know about. Well, everybody does know about, so they should know about you more.
There you go.
Sorry, when Rob Wozniak came over and shook his hand and everything. Yeah, that's one of my favorite. We'll get to that part. That was like, I was like, holy crap! I was like, how awesome is that?
Right?
I mean, he was like, he had his hand. He was like shaking a little bit. I was like, holy man! I hope someone has a little freak out moment around me.
No. Stop it, John. So anyhow, let's get into Saturday, the Kings Classic, and back in 2019 when we had the first year of the Expo, I went to the Kings Classic that Saturday also, and I saw all these analysts that I was fanboying over, and I was like, oh my god, this is amazing. I've been watching these people for years, and then they come out of their respective rooms and they're having like a bathroom break. I'm like, okay, well, now is not the time to introduce myself while these people are going to take a piss. They probably want some peace to themselves for at least a few minutes. And so they start coming back, and then I'm like, ooh, do I shake their hand? Do I not? What if it's wet? What if it's not? What if they didn't dry their hands properly? What if they didn't wash their hands at all? What does that mean even more? So I was having a little bit of hesitancy, and then I saw the last person walking in to the room was Dave Richard. Introduced myself. He introduced me to everybody in the Jim Brown division, which was full of some of the top people in the industry. It was very humbling and an honor to be given that opportunity. Anyhow, one really cool story that I saw from this past Saturday was, again, we're there, and I meet Joey Wright. That's Joey Wright on Twitter, and he had just traveled in. I forget where he was coming from, whether it was Florida or something. I forget where he was coming from. He tells me he just met Dave Richard, and he really was emphasizing the whole meeting Dave Richard thing. And I don't know if you all saw the post that he had on Twitter yesterday, where he's basically highlighting like he didn't know whether he belonged in the community. He didn't know, he didn't have a place, a foothold. And it was, he's there and he meets Dave Richard, and Dave Richard takes him by the Hall of Fame bus. Dave Richard for CBS Sports, who don't know who we're talking about, CBS Fantasy. He's been on our show. We love Dave Richard, friend of the show. And so Dave Richard's showing him around and kind of like, and then introduces him to everybody in the Jim Brown division. And I'm seeing this, and I'm seeing the parallels that were to me when I first went up there. And first of all, it just goes to show you how great some of these people in the industry really are. Special shout out to Dave Richard and Joey Wright. I'm glad you found your place here in the industry, man. We all care about you and care about each other, and it was a great moment seeing and hearing about that for you. So
and you can go follow Joey over. He's over at Rasball.
Right.
Is where. Okay. Sorry. My story with her. Continue.
So I go in there, and Teddy, you meet up with me in the Jim Brown division. And so I told Dave Richard I was going to bring him a Fantasy and Frames t-shirt and a koozie. And so I go over to give it to him, and I'm like, here, I don't know if I'll see you later, so I just wanted to drop this off now. And then to his right is Mr. Mike Clay. So I looked
The
at Mike Clay.
return.
Yeah, exactly. I looked to Mike
The
Clay.
universe strikes again.
The universe is providing me with another opportunity to mess up.
Right. To embarrass yourself.
Exactly.
That was great.
And I promise these embarrassing stories are leading up to something that was very profound that Nate said a little bit later, but we'll get to that. So I turned to Mike Clay and I'm like, hi, I'm that person, that awkward person who tried to introduce himself to you on the airplane yesterday. He's like, yeah, that was awkward. I'm like, I know, Mike Clay. That's
Meanwhile, I'm behind Jorge and I just bust out laughing.
It's like
beat a dead horse, man. Got it.
It's like, I got it, Mike. Yeah, I was awkward. Jorge Edwards, nice to meet you. And then Teddy swoops in. Hi, I'm Teddy Ricketson. Like, oh, Teddy, how's it going? Nice to meet you. I'm like, stop it. All right.
Well, okay, no, that's not what happened. I said,
Teddy.
And no, I said, hey, Mike, I just want to introduce myself. My name's Teddy. My wife is Brooke Pryor, who covers the Steelers for you guys. And he was like, oh, God, Brooke. And so then it instantly was all about Brooke. And so, as per usual.
Right,
So,
exactly.
And rightfully earned and deserved.
yeah. Our second brand ambassador.
I was going to
wife.
say.
Exactly. Yeah. Let's not piss off the second brand ambassador.
Yeah. Tune in next week when Teddy and Nate are back in janitorial duties while Brooke and Gary take over the live stream.
Right. Exactly. Which we'll have a special announcement for that at the end of the show. So anyhow, so we're
we
there.
just got fired, Nate.
Well, been fun.
That's not where I was going.
That sounded terrible, Jorge. God dang.
I'm sorry.
I'm gonna look up Mike Clay and be like, hey, remember that guy we both hate, Jorge? He's all stupid. Interrupting me. I was in the plane. He's like, yeah, I don't like him either. Come join me. Hey.
Oh my God.
We have a lot of fun. We won't mention that. Sorry, Jorge. Go ahead.
Okay. Wow. Okay. We took a little detour there. So we have to go back to the hotel because draft night out was happening in the afternoon.
Yeah, draft afternoon out. Yeah,
draft afternoon out, and this was packed. This was a job well done by Dale and the guys over at draft night out.
Mm-hmm.
And we were drafting our teams. And Teddy, you and I were in the same division, and we crushed our draft. Like, people were like in the second or third round,
both timing wise and our picks.
Right.
Oh yeah. No, I love my picks. Yeah. But the timing, though, like people were in the third or fourth rounds of their draft. We were like in round 9. Shout out to Run Boys Robbie, who was hosting and emceeing the event. That was a lot of fun. Great job, Robbie. But there was a point where what's the name of the? And I hated them blanking out on this. Front Yard Fantasy, is it the game show?
Those guys.
Yeah, follow them because
love those guys. They are fantastic.
Oh my God, so great.
They're awesome. And they were doing a game show live at the expo. And I'm thinking, okay, let's just stop our draft and turn around. And then I forget who is moderating. Malcolm is his name. I forget
Malcolm.
the affiliation.
Uh-huh.
I think he's also with Run Boys. I could be wrong. He's like, screw this. We're going to continue drafting. Let's go. And I'm like, all right, let's do this.
He was the barker, supposedly.
He was.
He was. So shout out to him and shout out to Jeff for being our sticker guy. I'm not going to use the term that other people like to use.
Sticker buddy.
Thank you. Our sticker buddy. And we were just crushing it. And then by the time the game show was over from Front Yard Fantasy, we all just jumped. We're done, and we finished. And it was, I don't know why we were so super excited. We still had to wait for the damn thing to end. But it was fun.
We got to walk around at that point. Yeah,
it just meant that we had the opportunity to go to the bar and come back with drinks and have a good time.
Very true.
And so then after that, as tradition for the Kings Classic, and Bob Lung will tell you, and by the way, Bob Lung, words can't describe how awesome of a weekend it was. So thank you.
Oh my gosh, absolutely.
We're not worthy.
So as tradition, everyone who participates in the Kings Classic goes to Buffalo Wild Wings. And so in 2019, they did the same thing. And, all the big wigs in the industry are there. And, this is where I did tequila shots with Brad Evans, which I thought was amazing. And then, so we go to Buffalo Wild Wings this past Saturday, and the guys make sure that I'm sitting facing away from all the celebrities.
Yeah.
I'm like, why did you guys leave me to sit here? And they're like, because we don't want you embarrassing yourself. More importantly, we don't want you embarrassing us while we're in front of these people. And I'm like,
true.
That is a good call. Because every time they would be like, oh my God, look over there. And I'm like, who is it? Oh my God, who is it? Who am I going to embarrass myself in front of? It's like, shut up, Jorge.
Exactly.
So let's get to the profound thing that you said, Nate, that I think other people in the fantasy football industry should listen to. We wax poetic about all these people that we've looked up to in the industry for a long time. We think about, the moment we finally get to introduce ourselves to them. And I was like, okay, well, is this going to be Mark Shue from Primetime Mob?
Yeah, Mark was there too.
Yeah, he might have been there.
Yeah.
So anyhow, we all geek out and mark out over people that we've listened to on a podcast forever or watched on TV or whatever. And I guess I was getting a little bit apprehensive. I don't know if maybe that's not the right word. Maybe anxious, I guess, is probably the better word, as far as like, okay, how to make friends with these people. And Nate, you said something really awesome that everybody in the fantasy football community should listen to and follow these words closely. You said, and you didn't mean anything disrespectful. You said, I'm not here to talk to a celebrity for 2 minutes. I'm here to talk to all the people that I've built relationships with and friendships with for hours. Mm-hmm. And that really put things into perspective. It's like, people are just human beings. Whether you're a high profile person at ESPN or CBS or Yahoo or whatever, or you're just a person like us who likes to produce fantasy football content and makes our mark in the industry. We're just people. And I think you saw that really evidenced by everyone at the Fantasy Football Expo this weekend. Humble doesn't begin to describe everybody that was there. I said going into it that my 2019 experience was everybody was humble. That did not change at all. There was no Twitter beef. There was none of that crap that you see every day or we saw every day leading up to it. But it made me appreciate, Teddy, you, Nate, Carrie, everybody from Fantasy and Frames, Jonathan, Jeremy, the list goes on. But all the friendships we made, with the Dynasty Rewind people, everyone you go on Twitter, you see who we interact with, and even people that we don't interact with. It was great meeting them and getting to know them and spending
a lot of people.
Right. And spending time getting to know those people is just as important as the 2 minutes you take to introduce yourself to a person that you spent years, following.
Which I'll say, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying I'm not here to talk to anybody that's
no, that's not what I was saying at all. Right.
And I know you weren't saying that. And I just want to make that clear that was actually some of the more fun things too, is gaining a little bit. I mean, it wasn't us. We didn't do anything. We keep going back to Carrie. She's the one that
anybody want to be nut.
And so that leads me to this. So if people didn't know this, and we're sitting there and Andy Behrens is in the corner talking to a few different people. And everybody was like, Andy Behrens. And Carrie's like, who? And I was like, and then she looks up and she goes, what's that guy wearing an Andre the Giant shirt for? And I'm like, what? I was like, she's like, or the Princess Bride shirt. And I was like, what's Andre the Giant? She's like, what's he have to do with fantasy football? I go, nothing. It's just a funny shirt. She's like, funny? I go, it's funny shirt for us. We're dorks. We like funny shirts, and that's funny. And she's like, And then we're like, at some point we'll go say hey and introduce ourselves. But he's around a crowd, and she's like, okay. So she gets up, you guys were there, and walks directly in front of the crowd, through everybody. And she's like, hey,
just beelines to him.
Of course, we're looking at her like, oh my God,
what are you doing?
Happening?
What are you doing? And she's like, I don't know you, but why are you wearing a Princess Bride shirt to a football thing? And he's like, what? It's Andre the Giant. She's like, well, I know, but like Princess Bride. He's like, yeah, and yeah, it's Andre the Giant. She's like, yeah, I know, but like, anybody want a peanut? And I guess and Andy and everybody died laughing. So now they're all best friends. So I bought her, mind you, this is on the way. This is the shirt that I found for Carrie.
That's fantastic.
Is that not a great shirt?
That is incredible.
That is. And speaking of shirts, let's talk about the Washington football team love at the Pro Football Hall of Fame.
Yes.
I'm a Washington football team fan, always will be, always have been. And I get to the Pro Football Hall of Fame's gift shop, and I'm like, I'm going to load up on merch. I'm going to decorate my sports cave in the basement when I get home. And I'm looking around. I'm looking for Washington football merchandise. Oh, look, this is what Teddy got, his Flash.
Look how pretty it is.
I like it.
It's very pretty. So anyhow, so I'm looking, and Teddy, thankfully he goes up front to the people up front, and it's like, oh yeah, the Washington stuff is on a bookend of one of the shelves back there. And I'm like, bookend? We don't even get like a proper shelf. It's just a bookend. Okay, whatever. So we go there, and people, I want you to really zoom in on the picture here because I made sure to document the amount of merchandise from the Washington football team they have at the Pro Football Hall of Fame? Here it is. Ready? You ready?
Mm-hmm.
You ready? Here we go. That doesn't really help. What just happened? Okay.
I tried fixing it. And I screwed up.
Just leave it alone. What did you just do? What did you just do? Thank Jesus. Okay. Here we go. There you go. You see that, folks? You see that T-shirt?
For those of you thinking, oh, they only have one T-shirt design. No, they only had one T-shirt in the entire section, and the Jets, who were also pictured, had the other bookend on the other side as well.
Right. So that shirt was the only piece of merchandise from the Washington football team. So
I about cried laughing.
As you should.
I would have too.
That was pretty sad. Somebody take us through the pre-expo party and how that was.
Man. So the worst part is that Teddy had to leave and drive back, and we couldn't all stick around because,
No, Saturday night.
Oh man, jerseys.
Yeah.
Holy moly. You want to talk about, number one, the most perfect night you could ever just put together. Hey, let's get, low 70s, I'd say temperature, nice breeze, beautiful place. If anybody's ever going to Canton, Jersey's has this beautiful like outdoor setup with the kind of an AstroTurf in the center with a couple bars set up. The guys with Fantasy Football Affair set up the best situation I've ever seen. And they asked, so before the expo, I don't know if you guys even saw that or not, but they actually had separate, all that crap that he's giving away. Drinks, they asked people their opinion. What do you guys, hey, if you're drinking something, what would you like? And they took it into account, and everything that everybody as the consensus would want was there. There was Crown, there was Jameson, there was Crown Apple, which if there is a way that Drew Davenport is listening, Drew had Carrie and myself and a few others doing shots pretty much the entire evening. And that's just another relationship. Like I can't wait for 2 years to pass to meet back up with him. And I can't not, to do it in person. And so many different people have talked about getting together and actually doing something outside of waiting for the expo. It's incredible,
Oh yeah, no, definitely.
Yeah. I met a guy in the porta potty line that lived in my hometown for 12 years. So that was quite insane.
Totally random. And so anyway, thanks to Fantasy Affair for the drinks, the food, the hospitality. It was a great time. Honestly, I again played Old Man River. Friday night I went to bed at 11:50. I went to bed at 10:30 because I'm like, man, tomorrow's expo morning. I can't be totally wrecked.
Not me. We walked back with Bob Lung at like probably 1:15, and as we were walking back, Ryan Hallam from Fantasy Alarm and a few other guys that we were all kind of hanging out with throughout the evening, we're all going to go to another like party or something going on. I think it was like a room party. I didn't go. No. Hell no, I'm an old man. But this was also like 2, by the time we got back there.
Sure.
And it was great. It was so much fun to let everybody, at that point, no one really was awestruck by anybody anymore. At that point, It was just going around and getting, the guys from Trophy Smack were buying tequila shots for all of us. Oh.
Yep. There we go. Circle message.
Love it. That was absolutely hysterical. That one's from Mark.
I hope Mark's still on. Yeah.
I hope Mark's still watching. That's hilarious.
All right. So let's get to Expo Day. Let's just wrap up the show with that. So it's early. We set up around 10. The expo goes from 10 to 4.
That was a long 6 hours, by the way.
And we got to give you a lot of credit, Teddy.
Oh, my Lord. That was a marathon day.
So here's the thing. Everybody on Twitter was like, a couple of days before, oh, this is going to be full of analysts. It's not going to be any fans there. It's going to be blah, 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 blah. It's not going to be there were fans.
Mm-hmm.
There were plenty of fantasy football fans. In fact, we ran into a few of ours that we didn't even know we had. It's like, hey, it was really weird, like running into people like, hey, are you with Fantasy Frames? I'm like, yep. And they're like, cool, we love your stuff. And I'm like, oh, that's really awesome. So I got to know everybody.
Are you related to Teddy or Nate? Neither.
Yeah.
Right.
But seriously, our booth was rocking all day long. People coming by, and we were talking about how much we're passionate about football and how we value offense and defense, and that's why we emphasize, offense and IDP. And we just had such a great time. I was on one of the expert panels for a mock draft. That was a lot of fun. Thanks, Bob Lung, for hooking me up with that. Nate, you and I had an IDP panel, and we were with Gary Davenport and Nate Sheet from IDP Guys. And everyone out there who's listening and or watching, so IDP is it's a niche thing. It's not in the mainstream as we think it should be. And so when we were told we could have time for a 30-minute panel, it's like, okay, well, let's just reach out to the people who show up and just kind of give them our 2 cents.
Right.
It was standing room only in this small little room. Like 30 people were literally in there. People that we didn't even expect to be there. Joe Bryan from Football Guys, shout out to him. Had a great conversation with him. So great guy. But it was standing room only, and we got to like a couple questions, and by the time we were getting ready to keep answering more, we had reached our 30-minute time. And every one of us on that panel was just like, man, this is fantastic. And so our guy, Gary Davenport, spoiler alert, talked to Bob Lung. And next year at the Expo in 2022, in the weekend of August 13th and 14th, there will be a 1-hour IDP panel. So thank you all the IDP fans out there who showed up. We can't wait to talk a little defense with you next year. But of course, we have all of this year and leading up to next year's Expo to talk about IDP. So it was just nonstop craziness. And while Nate and I are running around doing stuff, or if I have to do stuff, or somebody has to do stuff, Teddy, Carrie, and
Ken.
Ken. Sorry, Ken.
Sorry, I forgot your name, Ken.
Exactly. These give them the ballroom for IDP. That's right, Primetime Mock. You know it. Thanks, Mark.
Absolutely.
Ooh.
Just holding down the fort, like wave after wave. I feel like there was never any downtime. We were doing our charity raffle for merchandise. So thank you for everybody who participated. Money's going to a great cause. And by the way, the GoFundMe account has been set up for that. So people who are interested in donating for the 4-Eye Championships and all the 13 plus charities that could potentially be receiving money, please head over to our GoFundMe page, which we will be posting on our Facebook page and Twitter page pretty soon. Anyhow, but meeting people who are interested in fantasy football, people who, obviously they're interested, that's why they're there. But really listen to our message of like, look, we don't want to push anything on you. We're not trying to tell you how you should play fantasy football. We're just telling you, we love it. We think playing offense in IDP is fantastic. Maybe you will too. What do you have to lose? Give it a shot. If you like it, congratulations. You just found another thing about fantasy football to love. If you don't, okay. We still got you covered here at Fantasy and Frames for all the content, whether it's Dynasty, Redraft, IDP. I think the message we really wanted to get to all the people out there on Sunday and Expo weekend as a whole was we're passionate football fans. And, we're passionate, when a quarterback or a wide receiver, running back or tight end scores a touchdown. I'm just as passionate when, a defensive end makes a game-winning sack on 4th and 1. And so if you're passionate about those couple examples, then you'd be passionate about IDP as well as playing on offense. That's our take. And so for those who we had about 70 people follow us from that experience alone. So shout out to everybody who followed us over the weekend. Shout out to everybody who has been supporting us from day one here at Fantasy and Frames. So anyhow, it's 3:00, it's 3:30. The place is clearing out and we are just like exhausted. It's like, okay, this has been nonstop. Teddy, I keep going back to you because you were holding down the fort, man. We couldn't have done it without you. You did a great job, as well as Carrie and Ken. So it's over. Everybody starts heading out and, we're hanging out. We're doing our post celebratory shots. We had a good time. We were already talking about what we're going to do next year. And then, this guy, Mr. Ricketson, is like, I got to go back home. And I'm like, way to go, Captain Buzzkill. We just had an amazing day, and now you have to leave.
Right.
And it was really sad. It's like, we finally waited a year plus to meet each other. And I can't say enough good things about Teddy, about the work you do here at Fantasy and Frames, as well as over at Ball Blast. Both of us are very lucky to have you. Which, by the way, I met them at Jukes finally. Awesome. Just
they're
awesome.
Fantastic.
Absolutely.
Awesome. In fact, shout out to Michelle because we're at Buffalo Wild Wings and she's talking. She's at our table and we're talking. And she's like, okay, I'm gonna go now because nobody likes to be watched while they're eating chicken wings. And I'm like, thank you. I'm like, thank you for knowing that. Thank you for understanding that. But thank you for being respectful. Like I really
Very self-aware. Yep.
I had boneless wings, so I didn't really care.
You mean
boneless
chicken
wings.
nuggets? You had chicken nuggets. That's what
And they were fantastic.
Do they have bones in them?
Nope.
Then there you go.
They
Boneless.
did not. Shout out to, what was it? Erica? Was that our waitress's name?
Katie.
Not
Katie.
Erica. Katie.
Congratulations on your promotion.
Yeah, promotion at Buffalo. Exactly.
It's too late now.
That's true. The world knows.
If we reach Buffalo Wild Wings
in Canton,
top
Ohio,
level, exactly, then give us a follow, please.
Yeah,
exactly.
We'll take wing codes. But no, honestly, my favorite part about the expo was not only just like the people we finally got to meet, because like obviously for the last 8 months when I've been working with Fantasy and Friends with you guys, it's been knowing you just over the internet, because that's the difference with Ball Blast is just that Kate and Michelle live in Pittsburgh, so like we'll hang out, get drinks and that kind of stuff. So it was great to meet you guys. But I just did a podcast last night with Tyler Roginski, who we've had on of the Fantasy Hot Read, and it was just so wild. Like I was on my first podcast appearance in this space was with him like 2 years ago. I finally met him in person, at the expo. So he swung back by the booth and everything, and it was just really cool to finally meet people. And I met Dave Ibrahim, and I could go without having met him. No, I'm just kidding. Love Dave. Dave's fantastic.
He was pegging me with these things at the bar. I'm like, why are you throwing this stuff at the bar? We're gonna get in trouble. He's like,
you were supposed to catch it.
I did. I caught the one for me and the one towards you that you didn't even see.
He was trying to see how many more drinks you needed.
Yeah,
exactly.
It was. We did good. I mean, if that's a barometer for how good you did, we did good. I'm going to say that, but it was so much fun.
Jordan, another great investor for IDP. Great, Jordan, great awesome. Meeting you, Jordan.
Man, it was so
great
much
fun meeting you.
This everybody. Just like you could see that it was finally like, hey, I want to, shake your hand. I appreciate everything that, every kind word you've ever said, or every, idea that anybody's popped into each other's head. I will tell you the one thing outside of meeting everybody that has given me the most excitement is I can't, like right now, this is podcast number 1 post expo. Everything's gonna be like PE. Oh, we remember the podcast. Remember BE those years, the 2021 BE before expo.
Yes, we will.
Next year. Yes. I'll pick you up if we have to. I don't care. That seems a long way out of my way. Probably
Bob has released the dates for next year, so go ahead and mark them down.
So Teddy heads out, and we're glad you got it. We're glad you got him safe. But then John Hesterman from DLF comes and joins us, and he hangs with us the rest of the night. And let me tell you, that guy is a class act. That guy's a quality guy. We were both at the 2019 Expo, but we didn't talk at all. And it wasn't until I made some postings on Instagram following that expo. He was like, hey, I was there too, but we didn't really talk. I'm like, I know, we should probably fix that in the year and a half or whenever we were going to have the next expo. And of course, 2020 happened.
Right.
And we made up for a year and a half of lost times because he was a great guy. Really fortunate to have his friendship. And then of course we just, hung out, Nate, Carrie, Teddy.
He drank Sambuca. That's terrible. Oh God.
Ken. Wow. Oh my God. I'm so sorry.
The names that you're forgetting is Ken Sonnenberg, the person you've known longer than anybody else.
And that you shared a room with?
I mean, you flew together. You drove. I mean,
brand ambassador.
Bad joke, John.
Oh my God. That was such a bad joke. I'm not going to repeat what the joke was or his thing, but it was bad, but good.
I think it's great.
So then, of course, David Ibrahim joins us from Connect Go, which, by the way, Connect Go right there.
Sambuca. I can still smell it. Golly. I'm drinking it, so I can't really talk too much right now.
Don't repeat. We will not. Don't worry, John. Don't worry. And so that wraps up, the Sunday, and then fortunately, we were lucky, Ken and I, that Nate and Carrie were able to give us a ride to the airport, and then we met up ironically with Colby Conway. The person that we started with. No Mike Clay this time. No way to embarrass myself then the third time. And the flight to and from was 30 minutes from DC for Ken and I. And I got home and I was like, man, normally you go to like a vacation and you're like, I need a vacation for my vacation. I can speak for all three of us. Like, no, I came back pumped up. Like, I'm ready for this season. Like I was kind of like dragging a little bit heading into the actual. No, I'm ready to go. That made it all worthwhile. Exactly. What about you guys?
Well, like Teddy said earlier today, when I was like, do we want to do both recordings tonight or everything? I was like, yeah, bring it on. Let's go. And he's like, man, you're hyped about it. But I was. Got a chance to, see everybody. And like, Chev just commented and seeing those guys finally, in person.
Rewind crew. Love you.
Oh, my God. I love them all.
I think we kind of commented on it throughout the weekend of just like, it's crazy how such a busy weekend could almost like refill your motivation. Because usually like you're like, I need a weekend away and like just to kind of recharge and everything. But we all got recharged just from how busy the weekend was. And so it was fantastic. And we've got more team previews coming out this week and got some podcasts we need to wrap. Jorge, you want to talk about?
Sure. So we're going to be recording the AFC South podcast. We're going to be answering some pertinent questions about the AFC South, both on offense and defense. And next Thursday, we're going to be wrapping up our final divisional preview, talking about the AFC North. And we're very honored and proud to have Brooke Pryor from ESPN covering the Steelers join us to talk about a little bit of Steelers and fantasy football, as well as everybody in the AFC North. We're actually going to help give her the leg up on her fellow beat writers who are in the division so that she'll know everything about their teams when it comes to fantasy, and she'll be able to say, yes, thank you, Fantasy Frames. Maybe not. Maybe that's not. Right. Nevertheless, it's going to be a great time having Brooke on next week, so look forward to that. And like Teddy, like you said, we're finishing up our team previews. We're going to be doing mock drafts. And then before you know it, folks, we're ready for the regular season. We are ready. We're ready for, next regular season, 2022 and beyond. It's going to be, we're so amped up right here at Fantasy Frames.
Sorry, Doug. It would trust me. Don't be jealous. Be
there.
Happy and yes, exactly.
Be there next year. So that's going to wrap us up today. I hope you enjoyed listening to our little musings about what happened at Expo Weekend. Again, thanks, Bob Lung, for everything you guys did. Thanks for the city of Canton for putting up with us. Had a great time. Thanks to the Doubletree. Thanks to the people at the Pro Football Hall of Fame. Thank you to everybody that we did not mention. We truly value the friendships that we built with you this weekend, and we will keep that going strong. And hopefully, a lot of cross collaborations can occur, and just catching up and being in the constant communication. Looking forward to that. So for Nate, for Teddy, by the way, so for those who are following the Fantasy Coaches Charity Bowl Podathon, we're going to be on that next, talking some Vikings, Dolphins, and Broncos. So head over and look at their YouTube channel or live stream channel, the Fantasy Coaches Charity Bowl Podathon. We're going to be on that next. I'm Jorge. Catch you next week, folks.
See you guys.